Hello, welcome to the Viswaprajna channel. To everybody who's watching, as well as people who are going to potentially participate in the panel. Uh, Today, we are going to continue the reading. We have done 10 sessions so far of Sophie's World by Jostein Gaarder. And uh, let's see, I want to get rid of this overlay. And joining me in the panel, we have Jostein Gaarder. Sir, welcome. Let's do a mic check and then we can proceed. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, fine, sir. What about me, sir?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So most likely it's just going to be the two of us. So we'll have a fun session today. So let me
Okay, sure,
start,
sir.
sir, and then I'll give it to you at some point. The reading, if you're interested. I know that you've been under the weather. So if you're not interested to read, that's it's absolutely fine with me. You can just focus your energy on the discussion rather than the reading. So I'll
No,
give
sir.
you the
I'll.
page. You'll read. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm
All
okay,
right.
sir.
Okay. So let me start, and then I'll give it to you at some point. We are on page number 18
Sure, sure, sure. Okay,
in
sir.
the PDF. And in the last session, we were covering some very, very interesting topics like Hellenism, then religion,
Right, sir.
philosophy, and science. And then we went to various philosophies. Like, again, this terminology is used very, uh, very much so even in today's society in the West, especially. So we talked about cynics, we talked about the Stoics, and we talked about the Epicureans. And then we went to a philosophy called Neoplatonism, basically. Okay. And
Right, sir.
today we are going to start reading about this particular philosophy called mysticism. All right.
Oh, I'm
So,
excited, sir.
yeah, I'm also excited.
Mysticism.
So, I'm going to put the link in the chat just in case anybody wants to join. But let's start with mysticism and then see where it takes us, because India has long been a land of mystics, a lot of fake mystics as well, which who we are very well versed. So, without much further delay, let's start with the concept of mysticism as presented by Jostein Gaarder in the Sophie's World. All right.
Right, sir.
A mystical experience is an experience of merging with God or the, in quotes, cosmic spirit. Many religions emphasize the gulf between God and creation, but the mystic experiences no such gulf. He or she has experienced being one with God or merging with Him. H uppercase, right? So the idea is that what we usually call I is not the true I. In short, in short glimpses, rather, we can experience an identification with a greater I. Some mystics call it God, others call it the cosmic spirit, nature, or the universe. When the fusion happens, the mystic feels that he is losing himself, in quotes. He disappears into God or is lost in God in the same way that a drop of water loses itself when it merges with the sea. We have heard about this kind of analogies in our Upanishads as well. Okay, straight away she goes there. An Indian mystic once expressed it in this way. Of course, it has to be an Indian mystic. When I was, God was not. When God is, I am no more. Okay, the Christian mystic Angelus Silesius, 1624 to 1677, put it another way. Every drop becomes the sea when it flows oceanward, just as at last the soul ascends and thus becomes the Lord. Okay. Now, you might feel that it cannot be particularly pleasant to lose oneself. I know what you mean. But the point is that what you lose is so very much less than what you gain. You lose yourself only in the form you have at the moment. But at the same time, you realize that you are something much bigger. You are the universe. In fact, you are the cosmic spirit itself, Sophie. It is you who are the God. If you have to lose yourself as Sophie Amundsen, you can take comfort in the knowledge that this everyday I is something you lose one day anyway. Your real I, which you can only experience if you are able to lose yourself, is, according to the mystics, like a mysterious fire that goes on burning to all eternity. But a mystical experience like this does not always come of itself. The mystic may have to seek the path of purification and enlightenment to his meeting with God. This path consists of the simple life and various meditation techniques. Then, all at once, the mystic achieves his goal and can exclaim, "I am God," or "I am you," with a uppercase Y. Mystical trends are found in all the great world religions, and the descriptions of mystical experiences given by the mystics show a remarkable similarity across all cultural boundaries. It is in the mystics' attempt to provide a religious or philosophic interpretation of the mystical experience that his cultural background reveals itself. Very beautifully put. You know how wonderfully crafted this paragraph is, right? In Western mysticism, that is within Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the mystic emphasizes that his meeting is with a personal God. Although God is present both in nature and in the human soul, he is far above and beyond the world. That is the Western mysticism, right? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, more or less. In the Eastern mysticism, that is Hinduism, Buddhism, and the Chinese religion, it is more usual to emphasize that the mystic experiences a total fusion with God or the cosmic spirit. "I am the cosmic spirit," the mystic can exclaim, or "I am God." For God is only present in the not only present in the world, he has nowhere else to be. All right. In India, especially, there have been strong mystical movements since long before the time of Plato. Swami Vivekananda, an Indian who was instrumental in bringing Hinduism to the West, once said, "Just as certain world religions say that people who do not believe in a personal God outside themselves are atheists, we say that a person who does not believe in himself is an atheist." you know, the very Vivekananda like statement, right? It's like a
This is
gunshot.
awesome, sir. Awesome statement.
Not believing in the splendor of one's own soul is what we call atheism. All right, with that, we welcome Daoji also to the panel. Roshan Garu, hello, sir. My ex name was Sophia. Good to know. Right? Yeah, this is Sophie, not Sophia. So she's from the Western Europe, not the Eastern. All right. Now, a mystical experience can also have ethical significance. Now we come to the more materialistic side of it. A former president of India, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, once said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself because you are your neighbor." It is an illusion that makes you think that your neighbor is someone other than yourself. All right. I mean, he's taken Advaita to the practical level, basically. Right. So Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was an extremely erudite scholar of the Indian philosophies. He wrote something. I think there is a book called Western Science and Eastern Religion or something like that. It's supposed to be like a very interesting book. I have not read it, but I'm aware of it. People of our time who do not adhere to a particular religion also tell of mystical experiences. They have suddenly experienced something they have called cosmic consciousness or an oceanic feeling. Right? Oceanic feeling means something larger than themselves, basically, right? Something that they're larger than their body, mind, etc. They have felt themselves wrenched out of time and have experienced the world from the perspective of eternity. Eternity is a dimension where time does not exist. Sophie sat up in bed. Okay, it's probably a little too much for her to take. She had to feel whether she still has a body. As she read more and more about Plato and the mystics, she had begun to feel as though she were floating around in the room, out of the window, and far off above the town. From there, she had looked down on all the people in the square and had floated on and on over the globe that was her home, over the North Sea and Europe, down over the Sahara and across the African savannah. The whole world had become almost like a living person, and it felt as if the person were Sophie herself. They're describing what a mystic experience might feel like, as described by some mystics through the eyes of Sophie. The world is me, she thought. The great big universe that she had often felt to be unfathomable and terrifying was her own I, in quotes. Now, too, the universe was enormous and majestic, but now it was herself who was so big. The extraordinary feeling was fleeting, but Sophie was sure she would never forget it. It felt as if something inside her had burst through her forehead and become merged with everything else, the way a drop of color can tint a whole jug of water. When it was all over, it was like waking up with a headache after a wonderful dream. Sophie registered with a touch of disillusionment that that she had a body which was trying to sit up in bed. Lying on her stomach reading the pages from Albert or Knox had given her a backache, but she had experienced something unforgettable. Eventually, she pulled herself together and stood up. The first thing she did was to punch holes in the pages and file them in her ring binder together with the other lessons. Then she went into the garden. The birds were singing as if the world had just been born. The pale green of the birches behind the old rabbit hutches was so intense that it seemed as though the Creator had not yet finished blending the color. Could she really believe that everything was one divine eye? Question. Could she believe that she carried within her a soul that was a spark from the fire? If it were true, then she was truly a divine creature. So that's the chapter about mysticism. As always, wonderfully put. Any questions, commentary?
Yes, the book you mentioned, na, Sarpalli Radhakrishnan.
Hmm.
It's Eastern Religion and Western Thought,
Hmm.
1939.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yep, my favorite one, and his most popular book is The Principal Upanishad.
The principle of?
No, not Principal of. Its name is The Principal Upanishad. The
Oh,
Principal
principle
Upanishad.
Upanishad. Okay, okay, got it, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it, got it.
Yep.
All right.
He was way ahead of its time, na. Like
Oh, yeah,
his
yeah,
time.
yeah.
He wrote a book on religion, science, and culture. The book name was itself like religion, science, and culture. Like very easy name.
Yeah, so there you go. That is the mystic experience. Although the Sufis made a meal of it, right?
Hmm.
Their mystical experience comes through smoking some weeds and that kind of stuff. But you know, uh,
Hmm.
the true yogic mystical experience is different. That's what they say. You know.
Definitely, it need to
All
be
right.
different, na.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sir,
Siksardin
what?
garu, any comments? Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
please.
So what I got my focus on in this particular subchapter is uh, just as certain world religions say that people who do not believe in a personal God outside themselves are atheists, we say that a person who does not believe in himself is an atheist. Not believing in the splendor of one's own soul is what we call atheism. This paragraph has struck me like lightning, sir.
Yeah, that is how Vivekananda is. Anybody who is my suggestion to anybody who is feeling a little bit down, or
Yeah, sir.
they feel that the world is weighing themselves down, they should read Vivekananda. It's like a
Right,
shot
right,
of
sir.
it's like drinking Red Bull, basically. You know.
Right, sir. Correct, sir. Actually, this is the rightest, the I mean, the perfect quote. What atheist means, sir,
Mm. So
as far as
they
I understood from
he
this.
always turns the question on its head. That is his beauty, and his English is obviously very good. So it's like an arrow that is shot from a very powerful bow, basically. Most of his statements are
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You know,
So,
yeah, I'm a big fan.
right. Yeah, I'm too, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
So Siksardhan Gari, if you are ready, we can take the
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
Dawji has any comments, questions.
Daoji, please. Anything else?
No,
Yeah,
no, no, no. Let's continue.
let's
I
continue.
just came
Perfect.
here, so I would like to hear first.
Yeah, sounds good. Ajay. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Sherekan Gaarder. Yeah, are you able to find where it
So,
is? The postcards.
sir, yeah, the postcards, yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead,
So,
sir.
just a small caution, sir.
Yeah.
I still have sputum in my throat.
No, no, don't worry about all that.
So, in between,
Uh,
yeah,
we'll
in
clear
between,
your
I may
throat.
mute to,
Uh,
yeah,
at
I
any
may
given
mute
point in
myself,
time, if you are
sir.
feeling that you need to just let me know. I'll take over. Okay.
No, no, it's not like that, sir. I have to adjust my throat. That's all. I may mute for a few seconds and then I will carry on. That's what I'm saying. And if I feel very discomfortable, I will ask you, sir.
Sounds good. Please
Right.
go ahead.
Yeah. So the next subchapter is the postcards. I'm imposing a severe censorship on myself. Several days went by without any word from the philosophy teacher. Tomorrow was Thursday. Was Thursday? Oh, okay. Tomorrow was Thursday, May 17th, Norway's National Day. School would be closed on the 18th as well. As they walked home after school, Joanna suddenly exclaimed, "Let's go camping." Sophie's immediate reaction was that she couldn't be away from the house for long. But then she said, "Sure, why not?" A couple of hours later, Joanna arrived at Sophie's door with a large backpack. Sophie had packed hers as well, and she also had the tent. They both had bedrolls and sweaters, ground sheets and flashlights, large sized thermos bottles, and plenty of their favorite food. When Sophie's mother got home around 5 o'clock, she gave them a sermon about what they must and must not do. She also insisted on knowing where they were going to set up camp. They told her they intended to make for Gru's top, Gru's top. They might be lucky enough to hear the mating call of the Grus next morning. Sophie had an ulterior motive for choosing that particular spot. She thought that Gru's top must be pretty close to the major's cabin. Something was urging her to return to it, but she didn't dare go alone. So the two girls walked down the path that led from the little cul-de-sac just beyond Sophie's garden gate. They chatted about this and that, and Sophie enjoyed taking a little time off from everything having to do with philosophy. By 8 o'clock, they had pitched their tent in a clearing by Groove's Stop. They had prepared themselves for the night
Grouse, I
and
believe.
their
Grouse.
grouse stop. Oh, okay, sir.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Grouse stop. They had prepared themselves for the night and their bedrolls were unfolded. When they had eaten their sandwiches, Sophie asked, "Have you ever heard of the Major's cabin?" The Major's cabin? There's a hut in the woods somewhere near here by a little lake. A strange man lived there once, a major. That's why it's called the Major's cabin. Does anyone live there now? Don't you want to go and see? Where is it? Sophie pointed in among the trees. Joanna was not particularly eager, but in the end they set out. The sun was low in the sky. They walked in they walked in between the tall pine trees at first, but soon they were pushing their way through bush and thicket. Eventually they made their way down to a path. Could it be the path Sophie had followed that Sunday morning? It must have been. Almost at once she could point to something shining between the trees to the right of the path. It's in there, she said. They were soon standing at the edge of the small lake. Sophie gazed at the cabin across the water. All the windows were now shuttered up. The red building was the most deserted place she had seen for ages. Joanna turned toward her. Do we have to walk on the water? Of course not. We'll row. Sophie pointed down into the reeds. There lay the rowboat just as before. Have you been here before? Sophie shook her head. Trying to explain her previous visit would be far too complicated. And then she would have to tell her friend about Alberto Knox and the philosophy course as well. They laughed and joked as they rowed across the water. When they reached the opposite bank, uh, Sophie made sure they drew the boat well up on land. They went to the front door. As there was obviously nobody in the cabin, Joanna tried the door handle. Locked. You didn't expect it to be open, did you? Maybe we can find a key, said Sophie. She began to search in the crevices of the stonework foundation. Oh, let's go back to the tent instead, said Joanna after a few minutes. But just then Sophie exclaimed, Here it is, I found it. She held up the key triumphantly. She put it in the lock and the door swung open. The two friends sneaked inside as if they were up to something criminal. It was cold and dark in the cabin. We can't see a thing, said Joanna, but Sophie had thought of that. She took a box of matches out of her pocket and struck one. They only had time to see that the cabin was deserted before the match went out. Sophie struck another, and this time she noticed a stump of candle in a wrought iron candlestick on top of the stove. She lit it with the third match, and the little room became light enough for them to look around. Isn't it odd that such a small candle can light up so much darkness? Said Sophie. Her friend nodded. But somewhere the light disappears into the dark. Sophie went on. Actually, the darkness has no existence of its own. It's only a lack of light. Joanna shivered. That's creepy. Come on, let's go. Not before we have looked in the mirror. Sophie pointed to the brass mirror hanging above the chest of drawers, just as before. That's really pretty, said Joanna. But it's a magic mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? I'm not kidding, Joanna. I'm sure you can look in it and see something on the other side. Are you sure you've never been here before? And why is it so amusing to scare me all the time? Sophie could not answer that one. Sorry. Now it was Joanna who suddenly discovered something lying on the floor in the corner. It was a small box. Joanna picked it up. Postcards, she said. Sophie gasped. Don't touch them. Do you hear? Don't you dare touch them. Joanna jumped. She threw the box down as if she had burnt herself. The postcards were strewn all over the floor. The next second she began to laugh. They're only postcards. Joanna sat down on the floor and started to pick them up. After a while, Sophie sat down beside her. Lebanon, Lebanon, Lebanon. They are all postmarked in Lebanon. Joanna discovered. I know, said Sophie. Joanna sat Joanna sat bolt upright and looked Sophie in the eye. So, you have been here before. Yes, I guess I have. It suddenly struck her that it would have been a whole lot easier if she had just admitted she had been here before. It couldn't do any harm if she let her friend in on the mysterious things she had experienced during the last few days. I didn't want to tell you before we were here. Joanna began to read the cards. They are all addressed to someone called Hilda Moller Nag. Sophie had not touched the cards yet. What address? Joanna read Hilda Moller Nag, care of Alberto Knox, Lillesand, Norway. Sophie breathed a sigh of relief. Sophie breathed a sigh of relief. She was afraid that they would say, care of Sophie Amundsen. She began to inspect them more closely. April 28, May 4, May 6, May 9. They were stamped a few days ago. But there is something else. All the postmarks are Norwegian. Look at that. UN battalion. The stamps are Norwegian too. I think that's the way they do it. They have to be sort of neutral. So they have their own Norwegian post office down there. But how do they get the mail home? The Air Force probably. Sophie put the candlestick on the floor and the two friends began to read the cards. Joanna arranged them in chronological order and read the first card. Dear Hilda, I can't wait to come home to Lillesand. I expect to land at Javik Airport early evening on Midsummer Eve. I would much rather have arrived in time for your 15th birthday, but I'm under military command, of course. To make up for it, I promise to devote all my loving care to the huge present you are getting from your for your birthday. With love from someone who is always thinking about his daughter's future. P.S. I am sending a copy of this card to our mutual friend. I know you understand, Hilda. At the moment, I am being very secretive, but you will understand. Sophie picked up the next card. Dear Hilda, down here we take one day at a time. If there is one thing I'm going to remember from these months in Lebanon, it's all this waiting. But I'm doing what I can so you have a great, so you have as great a 15th birthday as possible. I can't say any more at the moment. I'm imposing a severe censorship on myself. Love, Dad. The two friends sat breathless with excitement. Neither of them spoke. They just read what was written on the cards. My dear child, what I would like best would be to send you my secret thoughts with a white dove. But they're all out of white doves in Lebanon. If there is anything this war-torn country needs, it is white doves. I pray the UN will truly manage to make peace in the world someday. P.S. Maybe your birthday present can be shared with other people. Let's talk about when I get home. But you still have no idea what I'm talking about, right? Love from someone who has plenty of time to think for the both of us. When they had read six cards, there was only one left. It read, Dear Hilda, I am now so bursting with all these secrets for your birthday that I have to stop myself several times a day from calling home and blowing the whole thing. It is something that simply grows and grows. And as you know, when a thing gets bigger and bigger, it's more difficult to keep it to yourself. Love from Dad. P.S. Someday you will meet a girl called Sophie to give you both a chance to get to know more about each other before you meet. I have begun sending her copies of all the cards I sent to you. I expect she will soon begin to catch on, Hilda. As yet, she knows no more than you. She has a girlfriend called Joanna. Maybe sight can be of help. After reading the last card, Joanna and Sophie sat quite still, staring wildly at each other. Joanna was holding Sophie's wrist in a tight grip. I'm scared, she said. So am I. When was the last card stamped? Sophie looked again at the card. May 16th, she said. That's today. It can't be, cried Joanna almost angrily. They examined the postmark carefully, but there was no mistaking it. 5/16/1990. It's impossible, insisted Joanna, and I can't imagine who could have written it. It must be someone who knows us. But how could they know we could come here on this particular day? Joanna was by far the more scared of the two. The business with Hilda and her father was nothing new to Sophie. I think it has something to do with the brass mirror. Joanna jumped again. You don't actually think the cards come fluttering out of the mirror the minute they are stamped in Lebanon? Do you have a better explanation? No. Sophie got to her feet and held the candle up in front of the two portraits on the wall. Joanna came over and peered at the pictures. Berkeley and Jerkley. What does that mean? I have no idea. The candle was almost burnt down. Let's go, said Joanna. Come on. We must we must just take the mirror with us. Sophie reached up and unhooked the large brass mirror from the wall above the chest of drawers. Joanna tried to stop her, but Sophie would not be deterred. When they got outside, it was as dark as May night can get. There was enough light in the sky for the clear outlines of bushes and trees to be visible. The small lake lay like a reflection of the sky above it. The two girls rowed pensively across to the other side. Neither of them spoke much on the way back to the tent, but each knew that the other was thinking intensely about what they had seen. Now and then, a frightened bird would start up, and a couple of times they heard the hooting of an owl. As soon as as soon as they reached the tent, they crawled into their bedrolls. Joanna refused to have the mirror inside the tent. Before they fell asleep, they agreed that it was scary enough knowing it was just outside the tent flap. Sophie had also taken the postcards and put them in one of the pockets of her backpack. They, they woke early next morning. Sophie was up first. She put her boots on and went outside the tent. There lay the large mirror in the grass, covered with dew. Sophie wiped the dew off with her sweater and gazed down at her own reflection. It was as if she was looking down and up at herself at the same time. Luckily, she found no early morning postcard from Lebanon. Above the broad clearing behind the tent, a ragged morning mist was drifting slowly into little wads of cotton. Small birds were chirping energetically, but Sophie could neither see nor hear any grouse. The girls put on extra sweaters and ate their breakfast outside the tent. Their conversations soon turned to the major's cabin and the mysterious cards. After breakfast, they folded up the tent and, and set off for home. Sophie carried the large mirror under her arm. From time to time, she had to rest. Joanna refused to touch it. As they approached the outskirts of the town, they heard a few sporadic shots. Sophie recalled what Hilda's father had written about war torn Lebanon, and she realized how lucky she was to have been born in a peaceful country. The shots they heard came from innocent fireworks celebrating the national holiday. Sophie invited Joanna in for a cup of hot chocolate. Her mother was very curious to know where they had found the mirror. Sophie told her They had found it outside the major's cabin, and her mother repeated the story about nobody having lived there for many years. When Joanna had gone, Sophie put on a red dress. The rest of the Norwegian national holiday passed quite normally. In the evening, the TV news had a feature on how the Norwegian UN battalion had celebrated the day in Lebanon. Sophie's eyes were glued to the screen. One of the men she was seeing could be Hilda's father. The last thing Sophie did on May 17 was to hang the large mirror on the wall in her room. The following morning, there was a new brown envelope in the den. She tore it open and at once and began to read.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect setup. And Laura Garu has also joined the panel. So,
hello, sir.
Hello everybody. Late అయిపోయింది మార్కెట్కి వెళ్ళి
Hello.
వచ్చాడికి ఇప్పుడే జస్ట్ జాయిన్.
okay.
హాయ్ రాజు, హాయ్ శిక్ష, హాయ్ సార్.
Sir.
ఎస్కే
Hello,
రాలే ఇవాళ?
sir.
No SK Garu today. She's busy making breakfast.
We need
ఓ
advocate Garu here.
Yeah,
ఐఎమ్
exactly.
దేర్ ఎనీవే.
No,
So, sir,
because
do you want to take the.
Sophie
Sorry,
in the situation that she can be called a criminal now. He trespassed someone else's property now, just now.
she stole the mirror.
Uh,
So, do you want to take the next chapter or I can take it, sir?
ఎవరు శిక్ష,
Yes, sir.
దావుది,
Sixardhan. Sixardhan Garu.
సార్?
Yeah, I'll
ఓకే,
continue,
టాక్
sir.
లేటర్. గుడ్.
I'll continue, sir.
Yeah, please continue, sir.
Right, sir. So, Sophie had a new brown envelope on her in her den. She tore it open at once and began to read. It said, "Two cultures. The only way to avoid floating in a vacuum. It won't be long now before we meet, my dear Sophie. I thought you would return to the major's cabin. That's why I left all the cards from Hilda's father there. That was the only way they could be delivered to her. Don't worry about how she will get them. A lot can happen before June 15th. We have seen how the Hellenistic philosophers recycled the ideas of earlier philosophers. Some even attempted to turn their predecessors into religious prophets. Plotinus came close to acclaiming Plato as the savior of the humanity. But, as we know, another savior was born during the period we have just been discussing. And that happened outside the Greco-Roman area. I refer to Jesus of Nazareth. In this chapter, we will see how Christianity gradually began to permeate the Greco-Roman world, more or less the same way that Hilda's world has gradually begun to permeate ours. Jesus was a Jew, and the Jews belonged to Semitic culture. The Greeks and Romans belonged to the Indo-European culture. European civilization has its roots in both cultures. But before we take a closer look at the way Christianity influenced Greco-Roman culture, we must examine these roots. The Indo-Europeans. By Indo-European, we mean all the nations and cultures that use Indo-European languages. This covers all European nations except those whose inhabitants speak one of the Finno-Ugrian languages: Lap, Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian, or Basque. In addition, most Indian and Iranian languages belong to the Indo-European family of languages. About 4,000 years ago, the primitive Indo-Europeans lived in areas bordering on the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. From there, waves of these Indo-European tribes began to wander southeast into Iran and India, southwest to Greece, Italy, and Spain, westward toward through Central Europe to France and Britain, northwestward to Scandinavia, and northward to Eastern Europe and Russia. Wherever they went, the Indo-Europeans assimilated with the local culture. Although Indo-European languages and Indo-European religion came to play a dominant role. The ancient Indian Veda scriptures and Greek philosophy, and for that matter, Snorri Sturluson's mythology, are all written in related languages. But it is not only the languages that are related. Related languages often lead to related ideas. This is why we usually speak of an Indo-European culture, in quotes. The culture of the Indo-Europeans was influenced most of all by their belief in many gods. This is called polytheism. The names of these gods, as well as much of the religious terminology, recur throughout the whole Indo-European area. I'll give you a few examples. The ancient Indians worshipped the celestial god Dyaus, which in Sanskrit means the sky, day, heaven. In Greek, this god is called Zeus. In Latin, Jupiter, actually IOV, Pater or Father Heaven. And in Old Norse, Tyr, Tyr. So the names Dyaus, Zeus, Iov,
Eo,
and Tyr,
Eo, sir,
so
Eo.
Io, Dyaus, Zeus, Io, and Tyr are dialectal variants of the same word. You probably learned that the old Vikings believed in gods which they called Aesir. This is another word we find recurring all over the Indo-European areas. In Sanskrit, the ancient classical language of India, the gods are called Asura, and in Persian, Ahura. Another word for God is Deva in Sanskrit, Kleva in Persian, Deus in Latin, and Tivur in Old Norse. In Viking times, people also believed in a special group of fertility gods, such as
This
Njord.
Norse is Nordic, Sherekan?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
Norwegian,
okay,
Nordic. Yeah.
okay. The land of Vikings, so they say.
The land of Vikings. Yes.
Okay, good.
In Viking times, people also believed in a special group of fertility gods, such as Njord, Freyr, and Freya. These gods were referred to by a special collective name, Vanir, a word that is related to the Latin name for the goddess of fertility, Venus. Sanskrit has the related word Van, which means desire. There is also a clear affinity to be observed in some of the Indo-European myths. In Snorri's stories of the Old Norse gods, some of the myths are similar to the myths of India that were handed down from 2 to 3,000 years earlier. Although Snorri's myths reflect the Nordic environment and the Indian myths reflect the Indian, many of them retain traces of a common origin. We can see these traces most clearly in myths about immortal portions and the struggles of the gods against the monsters of chaos. We can also see clear similarities in modes of thought across the Indo European cultures. A typical likeness is the way the world is seen as being the subject of a drama in which the forces of good and evil confront each other in a relentless struggle. Indo Europeans have therefore often tried to predict how the battles between good and evil will turn out. One could say with some truth that it was no accident that Greek philosophy originated in the Indo European sphere of culture. Indian, Greek, and Norse mythology all have obvious leanings toward a philosophic or speculative view of the world. The Indo Europeans sought insight into the history of the world. We can even trace a particular word for insight or knowledge from one culture to another all over the Indo European world. In Sanskrit, it is Vidya. The word is identical to the Greek word idea, which was so important in Plato's philosophy. From Latin, we have the word video, but on Roman ground, the word simply means to see. For us, I see can mean I understand. And in the cartoons, a light bulb can flash on above Woody Woodpecker's head when he gets a bright idea. Not until our own day did seeing become synonymous with starting at the TV screen. In English, we know the words wise and wisdom. In German, wissen, to know. Norwegian has the word witten, which has the same root as the Indian word vidya. The Greek idea, and the Latin video. All in all, we can establish that sight was the most important of the senses for Indo Europeans. The literature of Indians, Greeks, Persians, and Teutons alike was characterized by great cosmic visions. There is that word again, vision, comes from the Latin verb video. It was also characteristic for Indo European culture to make pictures and sculptures of the gods and of the mythical events. Lastly, the Indo Europeans had a cyclic view of history. This is the belief that history goes in circles, just like the seasons of the year. There is thus no beginning and no end to history. But there are different civilizations that rise and fall in an eternal interplay between birth and death. Both of the two great Oriental religions, Hinduism and Buddhism, are Indo European in origin. So is Greek philosophy. And we can see a number of clear parallels between Hinduism and Buddhism on the one hand and Greek philosophy on the other. Even today, Hinduism and Buddhism are strongly imbued with philosophical reflection. Not infrequently, we find in Hinduism and Buddhism an emphasis on the fact that the deity is present in all things, pantheism, and that man can become one with God through religious insight. Remember Plotinus, Sophie. To achieve this, to achieve this requires the practice of deep self-communion or meditation. Therefore, in the Orient, passivity and seclusion can be religious ideals. In ancient Greece too, there were many people who believed in an ascetic or religiously secluded way of life for the salvation of the soul. Many aspects of medieval monastic life can be traced back to beliefs dating from the Greco Roman civilization. Similarly, the transmigration of the soul, or the cycle of rebirth, is a fundamental belief in many Indo European cultures. For more than 2500 years, the ultimate purpose of life for every Indian has been the release from the cycle of rebirth. Plato also believed in the transmigration of the soul. So, here ends
All right,
this
so
subchapter.
yeah, I think we can stop with this. We'll come to the Semites in the next session. So just any
Sure,
quick
sir.
thoughts, or if you want to discuss anything. So obviously they were,
This last,
yeah. The presentation here is obviously around the Indo-European steppe pastoralist concept, which
Yeah,
led to
which
a lot of
see, it depends whether you want to agree, we can discuss on that. If you don't want to agree, we can discuss on that. Both ways, it's fine.
right. So
no,
these
no,
days there
sir.
is another theory
Actually,
called the out of India theory.
yes,
So anyway, go ahead, sir, please.
yeah, yeah, sir. Just take a look at the last sentence in this chapter. Plato also believed in the transmigration of the soul. There ends the matter. Sir.
So Plato believed in a lot of things. Aristotle said a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
things. Most of it, certain things which maybe I will not agree to an extent. ఎందుకంటే see, it all depends. It is not an internet this thing where you will have quick changes in your thought process. It evolved over a period of time. So that way they are wiser. But the access to information also was also on a very low scale, and it was very slow. Right? ఇప్పుడు they might have met one intellectual from another part of the world. Right. See, after no, they might have desired some kind of theory or whatever it is. The next intellectual they might have met maybe 30, 40 years, 50 years later also. We don't know. Or maybe at the end of his life. So the access to
Hmm.
information was also very slow. We'll have to understand that concept also, how it evolved. Certain things you might not agree today, but it was relevant at that time. So this is how our thought process should go.
Correct, sir.
All right, sir. So
Uh,
Davaji, comments, questions.
Hmm. Comment is that the chapter is incomplete without the Semites. You need to
Semites.
you need to read that also first.
Yeah.
But okay, you can see they gave
I think,
Indo-European
sir,
shit about.
Semites is
Yes.
very short chapter, sir. I think we can complete it.
How big
Not
is
more
it?
than 5 to 7 minutes. Just 2 pages. That's all.
It is not, yeah, I think. Seven.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
it
sir.
has
I'll
three
just.
sub-chapter
No,
also.
no, it is not
No,
about
no,
that.
no.
Semites, no, Semites, is
Okay.
it going to flow from this chapter or Semites is going to flow into the other chapter? How is it?
Oh, okay.
Other chapters also,
Semites
na
is.
the like Israel, Jews. Oh, sorry, Jesus, Paul.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
that case,
yeah,
it makes sense to read it in the next episode, not this one.
yeah. Yes,
See,
yes, sir. Yes.
Semites essentially believe in the concept of this holy land and the single, what do you call, the monotheism.
Rebirth.
Semite believe only there is one. What that? What do we say? One
Monotheism.
God, one this, one that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then it's better
So,
next we read it next week.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
linear time, not circular time. Linear time. They believe.
Yep. Exactly. No rebirth. No nothing. Yeah. So, Dr. Gary is asking, when did steppe pastoralists come to India according to historians? How did they lure
I
us
mean, there
into
are
their ideology?
three things are there. No? One is no outward inward migration theory. Then there's Aryan invasion theory. One, we have invaded your land.
Correct.
Second is we have migrated to your land. Then we have brought all our intellectuality into your land. So you decide what you want to believe.
Davji might know a little bit more. I want to ask a question. So, Davji, when did Aryan invasion theory become Aryan migration theory?
When they knew that there is no evidence to support that.
So now there is no evidence even to. So basically, I heard it went from AIT to AMT. Now it is all empty, basically.
No, no, now it is
Correct,
out
correct.
of India theory. No? The latest one is out of India theory.
Well, at some point in time, we'll also throw these people out of India. We just have to wait for it.
No, no, no. We should never do that. We should actually take this thing and we should say, yeah, this is correct.
Right,
And that is my way of handling these people.
right.
Never
So, no,
confront
I
it.
want to get Dawji's opinion of Romila Thapar and Irfan Habib. What do you think?
Yeah.
I
Dharmela
can only
Thapar,
smile in
Irfan
that
Habib.
question and answer that because
Yeah, yeah,
in
Rahul
2000
Sankar.
there was a book I forgot its name. It says that there is no solid archaeological evidence to support that invasion thing. Okay, so maybe they came, but that was not any invasion or anything. Okay, then after some time in Indus Valley civilization and Vedic culture had some overlap also. Okay, they knew there was some overlap. If there is some overlap, then there is no Aryan or something could come.
Right,
They can trade. Maybe there was a trade route or there was some trades going on, but there was no invasion theory and like no hum hi jeetega types. There is no. Then
right,
comes the Aryan migration theory (AMT). So it is accepted now in widely. So it was like waves of migration, not one migration. It was waves of migration, one by one by one. So it was not violent invasion.
Yeah, actually,
It was
Davji, I
around
think
2000 to 1500 BC. They told us.
okay. Sir,
yeah,
Doctor,
but I
welcome to the
think
show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
uh,
Hello, hello, sir.
yeah,
Hello, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, yes, you are audible, Doctor.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yes.
closer to
You
the
are
mic.
saying you can add nothing. You asked a fantastic question. Never think you cannot contribute it.
Yeah.
Eventually you will do.
A-
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And Vishwa, there is also a book about Indian perspective on this. That Sharma, some Sharma wrote it. It says like the Vedic people may have originated within the Indian subcontinent. Okay,
Right, right,
so Aryan is not some other party. It's Indian people. So
correct,
there was cultural continuity from the Indus Valley civilization to the Vedic civilization. There was
correct,
a cultural continuity. So the idea of brutally invasion is now largely rejected in modern
right,
scholarship.
right.
Hmm.
So to answer Dr. Garu's question, the timeline is very incomplete, sir, with a lot of gaps, right? And people come up with all
sir,
kinds of
what is the
stories
question, sir?
to. The question is when did the stepipastles come to India? That is the
Oh, okay,
question.
okay, sir.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
question is when did they come? Nobody came. I mean, the timeline is very incomplete with all kinds of gaps, and people come up with all kinds of fictional stories to fill up the gap, basically, because the evidence is not there, right?
Sir, I put the historians in quotes, sir. You should mention that, otherwise people will have
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
yeah, yeah. The pseudo intellectual Congress and left influenced historians, paid stooges of the political parties. Yes, that's what the quotes are, basically, right? It's like History of India written by Jawaharlal Nehru, or what is that? Yeah, Bharat Ek Khoj, Discovery of India, right?
Bharat coach.
Discovery of India, right? Nehru discovers India, and then suddenly India's history changes. How does that work? I don't understand,
Yeah,
right?
sir, this book,
Davji,
Dr. I think he came to ask some questions.
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Please
please, sir.
come closer, sir. There's a bit of the audio is not very clear actually. Let me see if I can increase the volume.
just 1 minute, sir. I will connect from my phone, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, all
Yes,
right.
please continue.
Okay, okay. So, Daoji, it is R.S. Sharma,
Yeah, Harish Sharma is
the
also
historian.
more or less a communist,
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, sir.
Hmm.
R.S. Sharma.
but he every once in
And
a while he has some uh, what do you call? Sometimes there is clarity, but mostly it is agenda. Yeah, go ahead.
yes, sir. So, what I was about to say was, so still this book, which was written by R.S. Sharma, is still being read by the UPSC aspirants to get into civil services, sir. To this day, it is a part of UPSC syllabus that some steppe pastoralists have come into India, and there had been a early Vedic phase and a Vedic phase and post Vedic phase. So they have divided uh, Indian history into such parts, and it's all nonsense, sir. They
Yeah,
have made a khichdi out of it somehow, and they made
Yeah,
all Indians read
I
it
have
all
also
through these
heard that
years.
khichdi. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
also heard that.
and
You know that that spoked wheels. Have you heard
correct.
about it?
Iron chariots and
Yeah,
horses. Of
spoked
course, we
wheels.
have heard.
Yeah, Aryan chariot and spoked wheels. So I was like, we
yeah.
could make cities, okay, but we didn't know how to make spoked wheels. Wow. I was like, really? We knew how to make cities, draw lines. We knew how to domesticate animal, farm, everything, but we didn't know that how to make a wheel. That
Sir,
we know how to
sir,
make a wheel, okay, round wheel,
we
but we didn't
had
know
the
how to remove some wood from it.
we had the ultimate hygiene system back in the day, right? And
Hmm.
constructions using bricks,
No,
that is
Shiksha,
burnt
I'm
bricks.
not agreeing to even one
Yeah.
point. What you said and Dauji said. I am saying we are steppe pastlist. We came, we taught you all that. You
We
never
came
knew
in.
all this.
Okay, then
We came in iron chariots.
I will give you
Iron chariots.
some evidence. Uh, okay, you come riding a Aryan chariot. I know, Shravan Garu,
Yeah,
and you were a lawyer
iron
in that
chariots
time also.
and horses.
That also I knew.
No, I was a steppe pastlist. Nah. I was.
Yeah, Dr. Garu is back, sir.
You were a advocate in Latin court
Correct.
with a Persian wife with a Persian wife.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Huh?
Definitely,
I'm liking
because
it.
my version is that I was a Greek person and my wife was European and my children were Latin.
See, you are making another mistake. Okay, it is you are saying wife. It should be plural. Okay, it is not singular.
Vibes. Yes.
Yeah.
No,
How can there be a single wife?
no,
How
hey,
can you be
hello.
satisfied with one
I was
wife?
a one woman person. Okay, no, I was one woman person. Na?
Then you are not. Then you have
I
not come
knew
from
that is
the
my
outside of
story.
India.
I knew the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Dr. Garu is
Okay.
back
Dr.
now.
Game,
Sir,
he has
please.
some questions, I believe. Let's listen to what he has to say. That's
Now is it clear, sir?
a little bit of noise,
Now
but
is my
it's
voice
better.
clear?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Huh?
it's
Speak
better.
loudly, sir.
You
Speak loudly. That's it. I think that would
are
help.
you using a stethoscope?
No, sir. Sir, I had one doubt, sir. So you did not have any, only a few people came from wherever you came, no? So
Oh,
how
ho,
did
ho,
you
ho, ho.
colonize all this large mass, sir?
Sir,
See,
didn't
now
catch on you with your question,
Definitely,
sir.
it is a stethoscope.
right.
Definitely, he is
No, no.
using stethoscope. Now I'm sure.
I'm using here. Now is it all right at least?
Yeah,
Hello.
it is all right, sir. I think you are in a very closed room. Am I right, sir?
No, sir. I just came onto my terrace right now.
Okay.
Okay, please uh,
Just 1 minute.
say your question, sir.
Okay. If you're talking, Doctor, the connection is bad.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. We can't hear you, sir.
I think you should write the question in that
You went on
comment
mute.
box, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can
please do that, sir.
definitely see the question and answer. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Speak now, please.
Sir,
Yeah,
not audible, sir.
not audible, Doctor. So you may have to go back and come back in one more time. So Mr. Vigar is saying R.S. Sharma Ancient History was a standard book not only in UPSC but also for some Tamil Nadu exams. Well, they all belong to the same school of thought. Okay.
Yes. So one more thing, sir. So as we already know, the panelists, but I'm just saying for the sake of the audience that this theory, so-called AIT and AMT, have been excluded in the NCRT that are about to come this year,
Okay. So
from starting from sixth standard, I guess.
okay. So basically, they have been excluded from the Indian study curriculum,
Yes, sir.
national study. Okay. Yeah, Chromebook is not suitable for streamer. Need to switch to Windows. Okay, no problem, sir. Sai Kiran Garu is asking, how did few steppe parcels colonize entire masses? There is absolutely no evidence of any of this colonization and all that, sir. It's all urban legend and
There was
like old.
no,
Yeah,
yeah, there
go
was
ahead.
no colonization. There are no, there was no archaeological proof or any proof to support that. Even not even genetic proof. Genetic
Correct,
proof suggests that it was a migration, slow, not suddenly. It was not a mass thing. It was gradual mixing.
right.
No,
Exactly.
sir.
And
Actually, sir Dawji, I would
Mm.
interfere here because what you said might be right, but it does not coincide with the timelines that have been given in the book. All right, some
Hmm.
people have
Which book?
migrated.
Which book?
The theory, the R. Sharma book.
Oh, R.S.
All right.
Sharma. Shit, R.S. Sharma.
No. What I'm trying to say is what you said is right, but they are not Aryans. Okay,
Hmm.
Aryans are the people that belong to the subcontinent of Bharat, not not those who came from
No.
outside
You're wrong.
in India.
We are from outside.
No.
They are steppe specialists,
Okay,
boss.
sir.
Steppe specialists are
Okay,
Aryans.
sir.
Aryans are steppe specialists.
right.
Okay, sir.
It works
So
for
this
me.
is
The
the
current
yeah. So
what
my
I'm saying.
point is very
Yeah.
simple.
So
So
because
here is my two
Aryan,
cents.
when you
Yeah,
when
go
you
ahead.
when you ask now who is Aryan, so Aryan was like Indo-European speaking nomadic tribe. That is the answer. Who is Aryan? So Aryan is Indo-European speaking nomadic tribe. So these are not.
Acha.
They were migrated to Indian subcontinent. That is the answer that now largely people believe.
Right.
Okay.
They might be
and they
believing it,
created,
but it is not
not
true.
joined, not joined. So they create. So I know that is not true, but they say that
Yeah,
they created early Vedic civilization. The
yeah, yeah,
noble
yeah.
people, the honorable people, so-called Arya, called here, came here, okay, and use
Yeah.
an ancient textbook, Rig Ved, and culture us, okay, and make us good people.
Right.
We were very bad people. We didn't know how to do things. They came and taught us.
Correct, correct.
So anyway, net is from a philosophical standpoint, all this historicity is to me irrelevant because you take a
Yeah,
philosophy
because
and then try to
like,
get
because when you see like in many things are there, but when you say that this is true in old times, when we say talk about archaeological thing, na, there are some things that's not archaeologically proved, but people believe them. Like Chanakya, there is no archaeological proof that he was the guru or not. That like guru name was Chanakya or not, or there was any guru or not. There is no archaeological proof of Chanakya, but we believe. Okay, there are some sort of stories, some evidence, but it's not clearly evidence. So sometimes we need to what we say, imagine, not imagine. Imagine is not the word. Suppose. So this is all supposing thing. There is no evidence here. These all things are supposing thing, because they say there when I read about it, so there was like four or five factor. First was linguistic factor, like linguistic evidence that all the languages, Sanskrit, Greek, Latin, Persian, they are like similar in some sense. Okay, so common ancestral language there was. Then archaeological proof, they say that decline of Indus Valley civilization happened in 1900 BC. Okay, after that there is no proof of that same skill for that. So some new people came, that's why there is no that thing. So third is like literature evidence. So they refer to Rig Veda also, that it didn't mention large cities in Rig Veda. It has a small cities and tribe wars. Okay, so they correlated with this theory. Okay, and the genetic evidence I told about before, and then comes the idiotic thing, the horse and chariot. So they just mix this, what you said, khichdi. They make khichdi out of it and say it is it. This is true.
How can you
Yeah.
say it is
So one,
khichdi? It is our ancestors. This thing you are calling it
No,
khichdi.
no, I'm not saying it's
I am
khichdi.
protesting.
No, I'm not saying khichdi. I'm saying he said. No, I'm also protesting. There is my Latin children and
No.
European wife. I need to know that first. I need to find them also.
Yes, yes. We need to-
I also need to find them. I'm also against all these
so
things. These two Vishwa and Sikshatan saying now. I'm also against it.
right. So on that note, we'll try to close. We'll pick up the conversation next week, right? And
all right.
thanks to
Okay.
Dawji, thanks to Sikshardin Garu, thanks to Lahar Garu for participating, and the audience. Thanks, Dr. Garu, Roshan Garu, SK Garu, everybody else. Okay.
You forgot
So,
Vatsalya also.
Aryan
yeah,
Zindabad.
next week,
Aryan
exactly.
Zindabad.
Like, Aryan invasion theory is what we believe in. We invaded, we conquered, it is our land. End of discussion. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and where is my Latin children? I need to find them. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you see them,
All right.
tell me. Okay.
All right, sir.